And we're live, I think. If it seems like we have 6 viewers, 8 viewers. If you can say yes, if you can see us, or hi, or something, that would be perfect. I was thinking there might be a delay. Well, we'll just go. We'll just do it. Oh, yes. Boom. Thank you so much, Morgan. All right. VPSA Chat Live. We are doing it. Well, thank you so much for being here. Hello and welcome to our first ever VPSA Chat Live. My name is JP Davis, and I'm a life member of the Zeta Chi chapter of Kappa Kappa Psi at the University of South Carolina. Go Cox! And I am your current Vice President of Student Affairs. I'm super excited to host tonight's conversation with our current Vice President of Programs and former VPSA, Arupa Gopal-Campbell. Hello, Arupa.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me, JP. It's kind of a fitting VPSA to VPSA handoff for the chats. I love it. My name is Arupa. I'm a life member from the Kappa chapter at the University of South Florida. Go Bulls. And I'm very excited to be here to kick off the next era of the VPSA chats.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are here. We're also joined by a few others tonight. We have some active members, and we also have our chapter field representatives. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, starting with our CFRs.
Cool, I'll go first. Hi, everybody. My name is Mason Thomas. I currently serve as the 24th National Chapter Field Representative for Kappa Kappa Psi. I'm a life member from the Lambda chapter at the University of Arkansas. I'm very happy and excited to be here for our first VPSA Chat Live, and I'll throw it over to Ari.
And as a great sponge once said, I know something funnier than 24. 25. I am Ari Wright, and I am your 25th chapter field representative for Kappa Kappa Psi. Thought of that fun for my birthday this past year, so promise that wasn't just off the cuff or anything. I am a proud alumni of the new chapter at the University of Michigan. Go Blue, regardless of the outcome of the game. I'm a life member, and I'm really, really excited to use the knowledge that Mason and I have accrued on the road to help some of y'all out with service projects and show off some of our awesome chapters and the great work they do.
Yeah, all right. Next up, we've got some district officers with us. We've got Delaney from the University of South Carolina. Delaney.
Sorry, I was having Zoom issues. Hey y'all, I'm Delaney. I am a senior biomedical engineering major at the University of South Carolina in the Zeta Chi chapter, and I am the current Southeast District Secretary Treasurer.
Yeah, thanks, Delaney. And Orion.
Hey guys, I'm the president of the Iota Gamma chapter at Washington State University. Go Cougs, and I'm also your Western District president.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We've also got some active members as well. We have Valerie Miller and Valerie June. If I said your last name wrong, please let me know. And Natalie Harrison and Patrick Carter, if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Valerie Miller. I'm a senior media and journalism major at the Epsilon Iota chapter at Commonwealth University Mansfield. Yeah, no district title, but I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Valerie June. My pronouns are she, her. I am the president of the Psi chapter at UCLA, and I am a fourth year physiological sciences major.
My name is Natalie. I am a fourth year music education major. I'm an active member of the Ada Rho chapter at Westchester University.
My name is Patrick Carter. I'm in the Rho chapter at Tulane University in New Orleans, Roll Wave. Currently a graduate student in computer science at the University of New Orleans, and I was last year's vice president of service for our chapter.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Very, very excited. So I want to start by just kind of talking about what are VPSA chats. So VPSA chats are a conversation around like a central theme or a topic that kind of feeling like I want to share with you, the viewer. And it's my goal to have conversations with active students and with experts in the area that we're discussing. And so today we are talking about service, and we are talking about service because we are officially kicking off the months of service. The month of service is the first national month for our school year. In September, November, February, April, and June, Kappa Kappa Psi has a nationwide focus on specific areas of the fraternity. These focuses are service, which we're now in September, musicianship in November, leadership in February, brotherhood in April, and celebration in June. And so I'm going to send it over to Arupa real quick. And I ask Arupa if you can share some ways that brothers across the nation can help promote our National Month of Service as we are in it.
Absolutely. So first, if you read the president's newsletter sent out earlier last week, you will see that there are some weekly prompts of things that chapters can do each week during the month of service. This week is a blast from the past, so please go onto social media, Instagram preferred, and highlight some service that you did during the past, like anything before this school year, so that we can highlight some of the things that were completed. And then in the next week, the week of September 13th, we're focusing on this year in the life of a brother. So you can highlight the service your chapter has done so far this year. Then in the next week, September 20th, the week of September 20th, we would like to highlight service with others. And that would be highlighting how working together as a group has enabled your chapter to perform more effective service. So each week, please post to Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at kappa.kappa.psi and use the hashtags KKPSI, hashtag the AEA Way, hashtag National Month of Service, and hashtag KKPSI Serves Bands so that we can find you and celebrate you and highlight the great work going on at the chapter level. And also participating in at least one of these weeks will get you your Chapter A Crown Pearl goal this month. So it's a really easy thing you can do to get your Crown Pearl goal list going up. And I will send it back to JP.
Yeah, thank you. So those hashtags and everything can be found in the description of the video, and that way you have those for easy access. Today's VPSA chat will be in two parts. The first is going to be chatting with our active members about their service and some of the things they did over the past year to help them achieve like their Crown Pearl goals or their National Service Spotlight Grant. And the second part will be a deeper dive into service and leadership with our CFRs and with our district officers. And so for viewers, as we go through, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to type them into the chat. And I'm ready to get going, so let's kick off celebrating service in Kappa Kappa Psi by spotlighting some of our amazing active members who have been demonstrating service on their campuses with their bands and in their communities. So the way this will go is each of our student guests will share about their Crown Pearl goal project, and I'll introduce the speaker and give like a quick intro to what their project is, and I'll pass it over on to them for them to talk about their story and share some stuff. So first up, we've got Valerie Miller from the Epsilon Iota chapter at Mansfield University. Last year, Mansfield submitted a Crown Pearl goal post that showcased their chapter serving and bonding by cleaning up an adopted highway, which is really neat. I'm super glad that that chapters are doing that. So Valerie, can you tell us more just about this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Adopt a Highway, we've had it for almost 10 years now, I think. And it's been a project that was kind of tucked away in the back. We focused more on just here at the band, and then I became the VPS this past year, and I was like, we have this cool highway. We should be doing this more. And we we hadn't done it for a little bit, but we came back and it's a little exit ramp off of the highway here in Mansfield, and we all carpool up there. We put on the vests, the gloves, grab our garbage bags, and then we're all just split up into little groups on either sides of the exit ramps and the highway, and we're just cleaning up trash. We always find very interesting things because people throw interesting things out of their car, but we found like hubcaps, different pieces of cars, various animals that have been hit, which you don't touch those, but a lot of different stuff. And it's a really good bonding experience because it's not a lot of like physical labor service, but it's something we can all do together and just talk to each other and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so cool. So you said you like just found this like was it like a deed or something? Like, oh, here's this highway that we own.
So we have like I think I don't know how vast it is, but I know in this area you can like go to like the town or whatever and you can they always have signs for like, oh, adopt a highway at this next exit. And you can go in and you can sign up to adopt a highway and you clean it up twice a year. And just make sure that it stays okay. You don't have to do a lot of like pay for anything. If you just send them a little email and they'll send you all of like the vests and the gloves and everything. We have a sign, as you can see in the Instagram post, we have a little sign. It says this highway is adopted by Kappa Kappa Psi Epsilon Iota. And we take a picture with it at the end of every cleanup. And we saw it and I was like, hey, we do have that. And I called them up at the highway department and they were like, yeah, you do have that. And here's what you do to help clean it up. And I was like, oh, okay. And it doesn't cost anything to do. We just go up, we do it, and we have a good time.
That is very cool. I'm actually going to put the link to the Instagram post in the YouTube chat right now for anybody who wants to take a look at it. Very neat. So one thing that I noticed when I was reading over your project was you guys mentioned like this thing called Kappa Kappa Pi. After what is that? I was so curious.
So Kappa Kappa Pi is an Epsilon Iota tradition. We do it after first degree and third degree if we can, if it's not too late at night. And after our Adopt a Highway, we have a Perkins in Mansfield, and Perkins is usually open very wide variety of hours, and they have a really good pie. So afterwards, when we're all done cleaning up the highway, we all carpool back into our cars and go all the way up to Perkins, and we all have pie. Sometimes we don't have pie, sometimes we have lunch, but we always try to get Kappa Kappa pie, and we just have more bonding time at Perkins.
Well, that is awesome. Very, very cool. Now, please don't hate me. I have no idea what a Perkins is. I've lived in the South my whole life, and I'm seeing a lot of shocked faces. I'm sorry.
We have Perkins in Florida.
I have not been to Perkins in Florida. I have been to Florida, but not
It's like
Perkins in
IHOP
Florida.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
I
like a
have been to
breakfast
IHOP.
family diner kind of thing.
Okay. Wonderful. Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. I'm going to send it over to Arupa to get our next one going.
Amazing. Next up is Natalie Harrison from the Ada Road chapter at Westchester University. Their Crown Pearl goal submission was working with their TBS chapter to help host the Collegiate Marching Band Festival. Natalie, that sounds like a big project. What can you tell us about it?
It is definitely a big project. It is the entire day. We go to Collegiate and we perform as the marching band, but if you are part of one of the service orgs, you go a lot earlier than the rest of the band. Actually, sometimes we have people from our SAI and PMA chapters join us. We get up really, really early. We get on a bus at like 7 a.m. and we drive like, I think 2 hours to Allentown, and we each get assigned a job. And it's just running it, mainly helping people find their seats. I did hand stamping last year, parking, things like that.
Amazing. So you're working with like the crowd who's attending?
Yes.
That's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit more about what it's like overseeing such a huge event? What did you learn from that?
One big thing I learned was how to work with people. We do have to work with the Vivace staff, which is the people who run Collegiate. So you have to be able to speak with them in a professional way. You also have to be able to speak with either bands or spectators in a professional way. A lot of times answering questions and sometimes giving them answers that they don't like. Like 2 years ago, I was the person that said, you can't park here. And people didn't like hearing that. So you have to be able to say that in a professional way that's going to say, go this way instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to work on those customer service skills. That's great. And so it is a joint event with your TBS chapter. So
Yes.
what benefits are gained from working with your sister chapter on this huge event?
It definitely contributes to the joint bond. Each job that's assigned has both brothers and sisters. So regardless of what you end up doing, you will be working with both other brothers as well as sisters. So getting to spend time with them in between maybe people and just serve with them really adds to the bond, as well as seeing how they do service, because yes, we do service very similarly, but there are little differences. So getting to see the way that they work can help you improve your service in the future.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Uh, I think, unless anyone else has any other questions, we'll move along to uh, the next person. JP?
Yeah. So next up, we're going to hear from Patrick Carter of the Road Chapter at Tulane University, or formerly of the Road Chapter at Tulane University. Congratulations on grad school. Their Crown Pro Goal submission last year, or one of them actually earned them the National Service Spotlight grant for their project of promoting band camaraderie early in the season through a tie-dye night for their entire band, which sounds awesome. You've already got your Tie-Dye Tuesday shirt like completely made. So Patrick, this sounds really awesome. What is this service project like every year that you guys have done it?
Yeah, sorry, my cat is getting all up in the way right
No need
now.
to apologize for the
No
cat. We
apologies
support.
for pets. Just gotta say what the name is. We're good.
Usually just call her Kitty. Nobody could. I wanted to name her Pepper, but nobody really liked it. That's besides the point. So yeah, the our tie-dye project is something that we typically do near the end of band camp. So it's a really great way to bring the whole band together because a lot of these people, especially for freshmen, you've only seen all these new people for maybe a week, week and a half or so. And so this is kind of really the first main social event that they might go to where you can bond with other people in the band. You can kind of see what Kappa Kappa Psi is all about. Uh, and it's also fun for us. We usually design our own shirts. So I actually have the one from this year. Usually the
Wow.
front is pretty basic. And then on the back, we might have a design based on one of our shows. So this year we're doing like an Oz themed show. We have our home football schedule on the back as well. Ignore my poor tie-dye. I'm not very good at it. But yeah, it's just a really great way to bring the whole band together, really build that sense of community with each other, and have a good time decorating some shirts. And usually on the last day of camp, it's kind of a tradition for everyone to actually wear their own tie-dye, so we kind of all have that sense of community together.
That is awesome. And please don't like be like, "Oh, this is bad tie-dye." I loved it. I thought it was a neat design. I would wear that shirt for sure.
Thank you. Thank
Uh,
you.
that is so cool. Uh, so specifically, kind of like in the National Service Spotlight Grant area, um, how easy was it to like apply for that? Like, what advice would you give
Oh,
to
it
people?
was really easy. I mean, all it really takes is just gather pictures from the event, just write up some text about what you did, why it's important. Really, I mean, it was a very easy process. And I would say it doesn't don't be put off if you think that your service might be feel too small compared to other service works. Um, because really, I mean, all service is important no matter how big or small the scale might be. Obviously, making tie-dye shirts isn't this on the same scale as hosting, adopting a highway or running a whole marching band festival, but it's still just as important for us to build that community with each other and really forge those bonds, and also forming traditions. Given that our chapter, we were only reinstated in 2010. Um, so really, no matter how small it might seem, don't let that put you off from taking that shot and going for it because you never know what could happen.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Uh, I think I might steal the tie-dye idea for my own program. I'm a high school band director, so if you see a whole bunch of kids in South Carolina wearing matching tie-dye shirts, it's because of you. So, thanks so much. All right, passing it to Arupa for our next one.
All right, cool. So next we'll hear from Valerie June of the Psi chapter at UCLA. Their chapter hosts a quarterly blood drive, a very amazing way to give back to the community. Valerie, what can you tell us about this blood drive?
Yeah, so we run our quarterly blood drive through UCLA's Blood and Platelet Center, and our donations go directly to the Ronald Reagan Medical Center right below our campus. And the Ronald Reagan Medical Center is a huge medical center that, they do trauma, they do major cancer treatments, and they're also one of the most active organ transplant programs. So they need a lot of blood. And if you guys don't know, there is a national blood shortage. So It can get really expensive for Ronald Reagan to keep purchasing units of blood from organizations like the Red Cross. It can get up to like $200 per unit. So that just makes healthcare, which is already really expensive, more expensive. So our donations just help alleviate the costs to the hospital and then also help the patients who need the blood. So yeah, that's why we do the blood donation.
That's amazing. Love to hear it. So, to me, a blood drive is a huge undertaking. How can a chapter even get started with a project like this?
Yeah, so a whole blood drive can seem really daunting because it's such like a big medical thing, but we're really lucky that UCLA Health makes it so easy for us because they really need the donations. All we really had to do was email them, set up like a meeting with them and chat about we want to do this, and then they give us the dates that we can do it, and that's all. A really great thing that UCLA Health does for us as the side chapter is that they'll give us money back based on how many of our band members go and donate. So it keeps us wanting to host blood drives for them. And I think if any other chapters or any other orgs, clubs, anything, if you guys want to host blood drives, you definitely should. You know, the national blood shortage is not great. Just reach out to any of your local blood donation centers, your local or your university health center, and try to set something up. They should be happy to work with you. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you don't have quite a direct, easy connection like what UCLA has on campus, start by asking your health center to see if they have anything that they can say, or reach out to community locations that might be able to help you with that. This is the kind of thing that you do not need to build from the ground up. I'm sure there is a way to hook into your community to help make it happen, and you guys are just sort of the conduit for it. So thank you so much. One last question. Your chapter runs a quarterly blood drive, so 4 times a year. How do you keep members and the whole band engaged in something recurring like that?
Yeah, so the great thing about quarter system is that it's 10 weeks and you can donate blood, whole blood, every 8 weeks. So that's almost the
Hmm.
same number. So it kind of lines up perfectly. We can do one donation a quarter, and that's about the time that every member has like their timeline or their deadline to donate like is up. So that works out perfectly for us. And I feel like we don't really have to do too much to push our members to donate because donating is such a rewarding process in and of itself. You get to help patients, you get to help the band, you get your own little gift card. You get like $10 to Amazon, which is awesome. They feed you a lot of snacks, and
Yeah, do
sometimes
they still do like juice and cookies or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're so generous. They give like Rice Krispies, juice, Gatorade, chips. Like you can get a whole meal out of it.
Nice.
And then
That's
sometimes
that's
they
the way
give,
to get college
it's
students to show
true.
up. It's
It's
food.
true. Sometimes they give free merch. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then like in terms of what the side chapter does, if we're a little bit low on donations, we'll host like a breakfast or a brunch at someone's house, and then we'll set up like a little group donation. We'll all like eat breakfast and then we'll all go donate. And then sometimes we'll have members who have a meal plan and then they'll offer to swipe us all for more free food. So can never say no to free food, can never say no to donate. It's all good stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So to be clear, UCLA is on the quarter system
We are
for
on the quarter
your
system.
academic year. So that's
Mhm.
great. So that's a great built in. Anybody else who's on the semester system, maybe you could do semesterly instead. All right. Well, thank you all for those wonderful answers. I will send it back to JP as we transition.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you really for sharing all of these projects. I think they're really such powerful examples of how service can look different from chapter to chapter, but always have an impact. Excuse me. Um, I think that you guys really present some great examples for our brothers to find ways to serve their chapters, their bands, and communities, and just find ways to be together and make the world better with that. And so now I've got a couple questions I want to ask all of you guys. And the first one, as a band service fraternity, we do push service a lot. It's kind of in our foundation, right? And so serving can be very involved. It can be very time consuming and taxing. Planning can cause conflict, and relying on others to do their part can be super stressful. And that can really lead to burnout, especially if you feel like you're constantly putting in stuff and maybe not seeing that from everybody. And so my question actually is, here's the question is, what do you, or what does your chapter do to avoid burnout while you are serving and doing these projects? I think I want to start with Patrick.
Sure. So something that the road chapter does, I think that we just have a very good variety of the kinds of service that we do. Um, Obviously, we have the tie-dye, like I talked about. We might work with former alumni of the chapter of the band or other brothers who might run band programs at some of the elementary schools around New Orleans and the metropolitan area. Um, we work, we do other service to the community, whether that's through Tulane's School Office of Public Service or other organizations, like with Outreach Tulane, which we try to do every year. Um, we also have started working with at Loyola New Orleans next door. They have a chapter of NAFME, the National Association of Music Educators. And several of them are in the Tulane Marching Band, so that's kind of given us that connection to work with them on various service projects as well, like we did Boo at the Zoo in Audubon Park last year, which is just a nice little Halloween event. So I think that variety of service that we do, not only to the marching band, but also to the greater New Orleans area, really keeps things fresh and helps to avoid some of that burnout because it's not doing the same thing over and over and over again. One that I enjoyed a lot that we did last year was tree planting. So we went down the streets of New Orleans, broke some of the ground, planted some new trees. It was a bit physical, but really rewarding to kind of help develop some of those areas a bit more, especially with our history of kind of having to rebound from Katrina, which we recently celebrated 20 years since that disaster. But with all that variety, and I think we just generally have a very strong foundation of people who want to do service and we're willing to put in that work. So it just combines to really help push service and never really have too many issues with burnout or people not wanting to show up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree that variety can be really helpful. So it's like, okay, I vibe more with this, and so it's going to be easy for me to do this, or I can give this opportunity to people who might really vibe with that. Valerie Miller, what do you think?
So always in the fall, like marching band never seems to disappoint. Stuff always comes up that we have to, oh, can you guys go fix this? Oh, I think we need a little help with this. Oh, this kind of needs to be replaced. So marching band never seems to disappoint. Almost all of our brothers here are in the marching band, so we're all constantly like, oh yeah, we need this, we need this, we need this. Um, but something we tend to do, and even in the spring, is we're just constantly kind of rotating, not intentionally, but like rotating what kind of projects we do. So it's like, yeah, we'll do a bunch of marching band things, but then also we'll do stuff in like the band room. Like last semester, we sorted and organized all of our mallets and sticks and the percussion because we had a few percussion people in our chapter. So they're like, hey, this needs a little bit of help up here. And we're like, okay. So we one Friday night, that was what we would do. Or so with marching band right now, our next project is to fix the drum major podiums because the floor is like falling apart. So we're just constantly rotating between what different people within our fraternity or whatever the band director says of like, hey, I think this needs to be fixed over here. And they're like, okay, we'll do that. And then this is a different thing. So I think keeping it different and keeping doing different things definitely helps prevent burnout for us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. If you have tips on how to fix that drum major podium thing, let me know. Is it one of those like big command tower things, like the 6 foot one?
Oh, it's one of the little ones. We have to replace the carpeting on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have people falling.
No.
Awesome, thank you. Natalie, how about you?
So most of the service that my chapter does, we do in shifts. So a lot of the fall service is set up and tear down for marching band rehearsals, but you only have to do service twice a week. So I set up the field on Mondays and I tear down the field on Wednesdays. So you're not going to service every single day and all day every day. And most things that are an all day thing, like collegiate, there are many people assigned to one job so that if you need to hop out and grab food or take a break, like you're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So does your chapter have like a sign up list for like, hey, we need people to fill in this time, people fill in this time?
Yeah, so it's a little different for rehearsals versus the big days. For rehearsals, there's like a form that we fill out of our availability because some people have class before or after rehearsal, and our VPS assigns us all two service shifts a week, and we also coordinate with TBS for that. And then for things like collegiate, we usually do sign up. It's kind of on a first come first serve basis of what slash when you want to do your service.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. And Valerie June, how about you?
Yeah, so burnout is definitely a real issue, but I think the side chapter has done its best to avoid it through delegation and relying on each other when we need it. We all have an understanding that the quarter system can get really overwhelming really fast, and we just try to carry a mutual understanding for each other that sometimes we need to take a step back. The general rule for us is that as long as someone is taking care of it, it'll be okay. Um, we just go into everything, every service project, every event, knowing that we're all friends who choose to support each other. And we have like a committee system in place and past officers and other officers that will help take over responsibilities if needed.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it will get taken care of. Somebody's got to do it, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that like, all right, well, if somebody's got to do it, like, I'll do it just to make sure that it's done. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna pass it to Arupa for our next question.
All right. So I think something I always find true after completing a service project, especially with my brothers, is that there is a strong sense of joy that is felt. President Rohr has challenged us to bring joy to the work that we do this biennium, thinking about service more broadly. How do you find joy in serving, whether through your project, in your chapter, or in KKSI as a whole? And this time we will start with Natalie.
I find joy through serving with my friends. I absolutely love my other brothers and my sisters. So getting to go to service and spend time with them by serving is just an amazing experience. And I basically see them almost every day because we have marching band practice like 5 times a week. So I absolutely love getting to see them and hang out with them and serve a greater cause that is our marching band.
Amazing. Love it. Next, Valerie June.
Yeah, so I think similar to what Patrick and other Valerie were saying in the other question, I think part of finding joy in service involves incorporating things that you're generally passionate about, and something that the side chapter does really well is having a variety of different service projects that appeal to all of our different members. Because the side chapter, our band and the side chapter are made up of mostly non-music majors. We have people of all different majors and backgrounds, so we try to incorporate all sorts of different service projects that our members will actually care about. Um, so we have projects related to things like music education, food insecurity, advocacy, healthcare, community outreach. So there really is something for everyone. And I also find joy in just being a part of something greater than myself alongside with all of my friends. It's also always a privilege to serve, and I appreciate that Psy always provides an opportunity to serve in different ways. So there's just always, yeah, I think there's always joy in being able to be passionate about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And drawing on the background of all the people in your chapter is a great way to spread that around. That's
It's
great.
true.
Next, we'll hear from Patrick.
Yeah, so I think a big thing for me is this idea of resilience. You know, like I said, New Orleans, we had the disaster with Katrina 20 years ago. Our chapter and our band program, got shut down years ago, like decades ago. So we only the TUMB in its current form has only been around for 20 years, a chapter for 15 or so. Uh, I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm okay, but I myself am actually a cancer survivor from when I was young. And so I think all of that resilience and being able to serve and being able to say that I am a part of why we are not only surviving but thriving, that's something that I take a lot of pride in, and I know that the other brothers do as well because New Orleans and Tulane, the band, it's all very special. And so being able to say that we're part of that growth, that we can give back to all these wonderful people, it's a real joy for me personally.
That's great. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad the university and the marching band is doing well. And we're happy to see all of the wonderful service that you guys are able to provide. And thank you so much for your answer. Next, we'll go to Valerie Miller.
So I think that we are able to constantly find joy within serving because we constantly, as I was VPS last year, and I constantly just kept an ear out for what was the problems, what are some things that are just like even little things, because any service project, no matter how big, is going to help. Like there was one day a bunch of us were out, we have a little hangout area outside of the band room, and people were just doing homework, and there's two outlets. And that causes a lot of problems and a lot of arguments. And I went, you know what? We're gonna get a new one. We're gonna get like an extender that has a bunch of different
Yeah,
outlets on it. I went into the next meeting and they're like, yeah, that's great. And we bought one, put it in, and it's keeping the little things that just like make life so much easier here in music. It makes you feel better of like, oh, like how did we survive without this thing beforehand? Or how were we able to do this without it being so convenient or whatever with anything? So just constantly keeping an ear out and helping in different ways and helping each other. Because if we all bring in different things and we make our own lives easier, we're gonna make everyone else's lives easier and it's just gonna be better all around.
absolutely. I love that sort of taking ownership of your service environment, figuring out the things that are annoying or not working well, and then just going ahead and solving the problem. That's great. Love to hear it. Thank you all for all of your wonderful reflections. I will send it back to JP.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for all of this. I've really enjoyed hearing about all the different things and all of your perspectives on the service and on burnout and how to just like take care of yourself and take care of others. It's very, very inspiring and has me really excited for our future. So thank you guys so much. I'm super grateful that you guys could join us. And at this point, you guys are good. Our Crown Pro Gold guest, you guys can go ahead and sign off. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So, continuing, we are now in part 2 of our VPSA Chat Live. Part 2. Still joined by our CFRs, Ari and Mason, and also joined by 2 of our district officers, Delaney and Orion. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and being here. And I want to start talking about some additional stuff when it comes to leadership and diving deeper, not leadership but service, and diving deeper into this topic. And so from your perspective, with you guys being at a more elevated level, you've probably seen different service projects from many different chapters across our nation. And so I'm wondering what projects might have stood out to you and what lessons can other chapters take from those examples. I'd like to start with Mason.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of the ones that some of our previous guests shared were some of the first that came to mind. But after doing a little bit more digging, just thinking about some of the visits that I've had this past year, I had the opportunity to visit the Epsilon Lambda chapter. One of the interesting things that they get to do is work on a kind of a invitational band event where they bring in a lot of high schools from around the area, and the chapter is really involved in volunteering in that event. So they may be runners for the event, they may be greeting bands, showing them where to go, they may be running concessions, things like that. And that's kind of baked in, that's not just a chapter event, that's baked in kind of what the band program is doing. So there's that example. Thinking of another chapter, I visited the New Alpha chapter. One of the things that they get to do is work with the Atlanta Community Symphony. And so not only are they getting to kind of help those musicians, run their rehearsals and with their performances and things like that, but they're also getting to create possibly some connections for people, whether they're music educators or professionals in other areas. They get to meet some of those people involved in that work and still involved in band after college to maybe kind of bridge that gap. The last one I wanted to highlight was the Gamma Pi chapter at Purdue. They have probably one of the more unique takes on service that I've seen. So one of the things, if anybody is familiar with the history of the Purdue program, many years they've highlighted their uniforms using these like lit up things that throughout the show, the lights will kind of be in concert with the music, and it will kind of be this cool visual effect. So one of the things that Gamma Pi worked with their program on, a lot of the students, was helping update the code, make it work more efficiently, also replace the lights so that, while they're on the field, they have this receiver that makes it much more receptive to music they're playing. And so I think the thing that each of these examples shows is that really, if a chapter is listening to the needs of their program and also speaking to the strengths that they themselves have, that I think is where a lot of these chapters can really shine, is just making sure that you're listening and being receptive and really using your strengths to highlight what makes your band program great.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of those. I'm not techie enough to be able to do the whole light thing. That would be neat. Next up, Delaney.
I'm the type of person that likes to, I notice the little things. So the projects that stick out to me are always the ones that happen behind the scenes. So stuff like setting up for rehearsals for marching band, or preparing uniforms, or organizing music and everything. So a specific project along these lines that really sticks out to me is the one that Pi at Auburn submitted for their National Service Spotlight, which was dotting their practice field. And we also do that over at Zeta Chi. But this really sticks out to me because just taking the little bit of time to paint the field and being prepared for rehearsals helps everything run so much better. And so I think it's important to note that impactful service isn't always about being on a large scale, and it's really important to find ways to meet the needs of your band and your chapter.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you gotta have a place to rehearse. You gotta make sure that you're taking care of that space, especially if you have a grass field, and it rains. You gotta all right, well, we're painting again. I know we just painted yesterday, but we're doing it again. Awesome, thank you. Next up is Orion.
Hi. For me, service projects that I think are really supportive of the chapter and the community are ones like Sai that took with the blood drive, or even after working with the chapter leadership committee at NatCon, is Iota Xi in Norfolk State. They do a lot with their local elementaries and schools nearby with just volunteering and supporting the classrooms. Service projects, I feel, should not both just benefit the bands, but should really highlight your community and support your communities around them so that these bands can support them as well. And so with supporting these elementary schools, one, obviously these kids are having a better resource in the classroom, as well as these brothers who may be going into music education or any form of education field get experience in a classroom. And with Sai, obviously giving blood, they're supporting any person in the area or nationally with cheaper blood for transplant or whatever they need, as well as these brothers. It's a fun one, but they get gift cards and they get snacks, and you have no clue what it looks like at home financially right now. So projects like these that can help support their community and the brothers within the chapter, I think, are great examples of what you should be aiming for.
I absolutely agree. That is so cool that they're able to get that in the classroom, on the job experience. I'm just very glad that they're able to make that happen. And next up is Ari.
So I had the honor and pleasure of working very closely with Ro, actually, so it was very sweet to get to hear Patrick talk about things. There's something so special about those service projects that, especially for a band that is community oriented, the way that Tulane is, things that work on bolstering and fortifying that community. Everybody at Tulane is super sweet. They love service, they love their community. There's something so special about that. I think that when we think of service, we do think of our basal things like the setting up and which are so essential to the performance and the survival and the sustenance of the band. It's always really cool to see chapters think out of the box and do outreach into the community. And it's just, I feel like it's always a good sign of a healthy love of service in a chapter. And it's also just a really exciting way to see what new ideas we can perpetuate in our community. So I think of Epsilon Rho at Grambling State University, who just put up a really lovely performance with Ohio State. They adopted a retirement home. They went out, made a connection with them, and they go and visit them. It's not just we show up and like just every so often to like they show up like every like month, every as often as they can to like make connections with people, play music, give these people company. It's really direct support to the people of Grambling, and I think it also just speaks to like the love that we have for the people around us and how our love of music kind of perpetuates through the community.
It's absolutely beautiful. I didn't know that happened. It's very cool. I've heard of chapters like going and visiting and playing every now and again, but just actually like adopting the home and being there so often is very, very cool. Thank you so much. Arupa, passing it to you.
My sound cut out for a second. Did you throw it to me?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry. Uh, so the next question I have is, I think it's important to remember that chapters come in all sizes. What service looks like for one chapter may not look the same for another, and if a chapter has a huge increase or decrease in membership, their service may need to change with that. So my question for you guys, when a chapter is going through size changes, how can they align service projects with their priorities and avoid feeling like they have to say yes to everything? And I will start with Ari.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a great question. There's a quote out there that's like, comparison is the thief of joy. And I feel like with the amount of diversity in the band programs that Kappa Kappa Psi is present in, from our bigger academic schools to our smaller programs where you might not even have a marching band, means that there's a lot of room for comparison and a lot of disparage. It's just like, oh, are we doing enough? But that is where we set ourselves back. I've worked with smaller universities who see these big service projects, these big dynamic, we're putting on this and that and this and that. And they, with less resources and less institutional knowledge on how to do so, attempt to try to jump in and do it. And then they get really stressed out because they're like, why isn't this working the way that it looked when somebody else did it? Do we suck? Like, are we bad? Like, it's this slippery slope. And it's not so much that like smaller chapters are absolutely capable of putting on big events. Trust and believe. It's just that like when you try to jump straight into the deep end without any preparation, it's very difficult. That's why I am always a really big believer in starting small. If you don't know what to do with service, just look around and start. I loved when Valerie brought up that thing where like Epsilon Iota has 2 plugins in the practice room. Nightmare, but they fixed it. Like when I went to Kappa Psi at VCU, one of their service projects was just replacing a bunch of broken mirrors in the practice rooms. Like, it doesn't need to be earth shattering. It doesn't need to change everything. You just need to start. You just need to look around and start making a change. And then it gets easier from there. So it might feel small to like tighten stands or like sweep up the band room. But no matter what, any service that you give towards the band is highly impactful and so important. And it just makes it easier for you to do more and do better in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective. Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's something I talk a lot about with our chapters, while I'm on the road, and I'm sure I can attest as well, obviously. But I think what I would tell chapters is that first, obviously, hopefully their chapter isn't like yo-yoing in size year to year. But in the case that they do seem to have a lot of that going on, the one thing I always just remind them is, are you communicating with the connections you have around you? Because I think part of what chapters struggle with is that they feel like they need to do more, feel like maybe they have to say yes to everything, because maybe they're just not keeping in communication with some of those connections, their directors, maybe other groups that they're involved with on campus, of like, hey, we had 30 members last year. Now we have 12. We're not going to be able to do the same amount, but we still want to help. Let's talk about how we can still be involved, those sorts of things. And then to highlight and maybe just add on a little bit to something Ari was saying, a lot of these chapters do feel like They have to do these big events, and it has to be all these logistics going in. I think sometimes maybe chapters focus more on optics rather than impact, right? Like something very small, like Ari was saying, can have such a tremendous impact on your community that doesn't require thousands of hours of prep and all these sorts of things. It really can be as easy as just listening in, figuring out how you can help, and then doing the thing that will have the most impact at the end of the day, that I think can really help you prioritize what you need to do as a chapter.
Absolutely. Trying to be impactful, which in turn will probably improve your optics. So you can do that a little bit ground up. Orion, I think you have something to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something from my own personal chapter at Wazoo. Something that really helped us was because we grew very big very quickly all of a sudden, and we felt that pressure of like, hey, we have to host bigger things. But it was to remind ourselves that these smaller projects that were quality projects, you can go really big, but I'd much rather have a bunch of small quality projects than one really big one that doesn't have much meaning. As well as I feel like a lot of chapters when they start doing these projects it's the fear of failure. When in the end, even just going out there and trying to do a project, one helps you learn and build a foundation off of it. But also it just still puts your name out there and says, hey, we are trying and we're trying to support you guys. So if anything, people might come to help support you as well. So you can't be afraid to try. And you can't be afraid of a small quality project at all.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think when people think about changes in membership size, they often think about the decrease side, but the increase side also has some challenges that comes with it. And you have to focus a bit to make sure that you can coordinate all of that. But so I really enjoyed that perspective. Thank you so much. Delaney, do you happen to have anything you'd like to add? Nah, cool. Okay, great. Thank you all for those wonderful perspectives. And I will send it back to JP.
Yeah, thanks. You guys are so inspiring with all that stuff. The quote that kept coming to my mind is it's from a TED Talk that I watched. I mean, every year really, but I saw it for the first time a few years ago, and it's called Lollipop Moments, and it's from TEDx Toronto or something like that. And at the end of it, he says that there isn't one world. There's only, at the time, like 6 billion different understandings of it. And we can't change the world, but we can change one person's perception of it. And that is changing the world because it's changing the way that they see it. And what you guys are talking about is like, just made me feel that on such a like deep, I was getting chills levels. So thank you guys so much for all of that. Now, for Mason specifically, a topic I've heard that you're passionate about is the point system. I remember when I was in chapter, we had a point system for a little bit, and we did it because we had issues with the same people kind of like serving each time, and then not everybody being a part of that, and then it kind of created its own tension, and I think sometimes they can discourage people. And so hearing about your passion for this, I want to know what your thoughts are, and then maybe what are some better ways to encourage members to serve?
Well, thank you, JP, for this opportunity to talk about something that I am very passionate about. So, hey, gang, let's talk about point systems. When I was first coming into my chapter, I was a freshman, maybe the beginning of my sophomore year. It was one of the first committee meetings I ever went to. I went to a service committee meeting. And our vice president of service at the time, his name was Jet McCullough, shout out Jet. Really, that committee meeting turned into an opportunity to talk about, like, why do we do service? Like JP said, and very similarly in my chapter, we had a point system. We used hours. It could be points, hours, whatever, however you want to think about it. And really by the end of the meeting, what we got to is, hey, service is part of what we do. Like, that's why we're all here. It seems a little counterintuitive to like have all these requirements and systems and punishments if people don't show up and do stuff. Let's try and focus more on, again, the impact that we're making, and kind of shifting our perspective, because again, at the end of the day, service is a big part of what we do. So maybe ways I would encourage chapters to challenge that. For some of our chapters, point systems may just work. Like, that just may be part of your culture at your school, that having those very particular, very clear requirements and then consequences and things like that may really work out. The issues that I tend to see for a lot of our chapters, though, that try and make it work for them, is that they tend to focus more on the system rather than the people. It's really easy to rely on the systems to like, well, you didn't show up to this one service event, now you got to do 4 more, and maybe you don't get to come to chapter, maybe you're on suspension or whatever. Again, seems kind of counterintuitive to add more work onto somebody's plate when they already weren't able to do the work that they were assigned in the first place. So I guess what I would say is 2 things. Number one, it's going to be a bit harder. It's not as easy as having these very clear requirements written in your constitution, all these sorts of things, but just like talk with one another and keep an eye out. And if you notice somebody isn't showing up to as much or, those sorts of things, reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you didn't show up to this thing. What's going on? Are you okay? And come at it from a place of curiosity more than judgment of like, how can I help you be more successful? I think the other thing I would say is if you are using a system's point system or an hour system, you don't have to get rid of it completely. I would just, again, challenge you to focus less on the system and maybe the consequences for not like pouring into that stuff and focus more on the people and maybe even just use it as a way to like assess how you're doing as a chapter rather than as an individual. So what we did in my chapter after that committee meeting is we said, well, we'll keep our hour system, but you get to set your own goal and there is no requirement. If you don't meet the requirement, nothing happens. But it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, this is what I can do. And then at the end of the year, you can say, hey, this is how much I did. Maybe I want to do more. Maybe I want to do a little bit less if I have these things coming up. And then as a chapter, you get that total and you say, okay, this is what we did as a chapter. Do we want to do more? Do we feel like we're good where we're at? Maybe we need to cut back if our membership size is shifting, things like that. I think those are 2 really good ways for chapters to assess the systems they're using that sometimes become more the focus rather than, again, we're brothers. Let's remind ourselves to support each other as brothers and as people.
Yeah, I love that. Focus on the people. Let the system, if you have it, just be for information purposes only, not for consequential purposes. I love that. And Ari, I think you said you had something you wanted to say here too.
Yeah, just a little bit of an add-on because Mason's spitting here, respectfully. Something that I notice a lot is the more that we make things feel like a punishment, more of a punitive experience, the less buy-in you get from a chapter. So like if you create something like a point system, is it more of a, we will reward you if you do this amount, or is it more of a, we will punish you if you do not do enough? Because as you all know, you are students first before you are brothers. That is very important. Degree. Everybody loves to have a job. And I think that sometimes our lives become so busy and it becomes very hard to balance everything. And when you add on another extra layer of stress by being like, you didn't attend this thing and now things are going to get worse for you, it makes it harder for people to interact with what we do, not just because of the negative experience, but also because of the shame they feel. Now they don't feel like they're good enough. Think about the ways that the system impacts you. When I worked with Delta Omicron up at UConn, go Huskies, they built something in where it was like, they basically make like keychains and bracelets. So for every hour of non-essential service that you do, you get like a pearl bead. And then you put it on they had like all these different colors of like string and stuff. And like you get so many beads, you get a glow in the dark star charm and stuff like that. And then you can trade them in for like, if you have 15 of them, you can give a fun presentation to the chapter on anything you want within reason, like top 5 Muppets, like stuff like that. So think about it as more of like a positive reinforcement rather than a negative one. And I think you'll get more leverage out of whatever you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for that addition. I love it. I love that like bracelet bead system too. I'm gonna steal that idea and put that somewhere. Thanks so much, UConn. All right. Now this next question I'm going to include Arupa in, so I'm taking her from the speaking order or the asking questions order. So in addition to serving bands, Kappa Kappa Psi creates leaders, and I believe that servant leadership is a driving force of our fraternity. And I want to ask all of you, when you think about servant leadership, What does it mean to you? And have you seen it make a difference, whether it be for individuals, for chapters, bands, or the wider community? I'm going to start with Delaney.
To me, when I think about servant leadership, it's about asking, how can I support the people around me so that they can succeed? So it's really not about being the loudest or most visible leader, but more about making sure other people feel empowered. For like an individual, this can help like build somebody's confidence and show them that their voice matters, and it will cause somebody to be more likely to step up in the future. For a chapter, this can help spread out responsibilities, so that way we don't have like all the same people carrying all the weight, and it can help prevent burnout. And then for like the band, when we do this, it can help people feel like more connected and invested in what we're doing. And this can help make the whole ensemble stronger musically and like socially. And when we take this to like the community, this is kind of when our service feels more like it's something that sticks and truly makes a difference.
I agree with all those points 100%. Thank you. Arupa.
Okay, so for me, servant leadership is something that is malleable, right? It's adjusting the kind of leadership that you provide to the situation that you're in while keeping in mind your place in that situation. So again, from that silent leader up to the person who's actually in charge. And for me, I've found for myself that depending on how old I am, the situation I'm in, the kind of leadership position that I hold, I've had to adjust the way that I approach different situations so that it is the best fit for whatever I'm currently doing. So, me as a section leader in high school band versus me as a national officer, they're two different leadership styles. They're still me, but I do have to keep in mind what the constituency is that I'm working with, who they are related to who I am, how I can best relate to them on an effective level, because, and that's the word, effective for me. I want to make sure that whatever it is that I'm doing is the most effective. This is something that I got as a question as I was running for VPP and why I was so invested in being a servant leader. And I love all of the touchy-feely philosophical answers to that question. But for me, part of it, one of the biggest parts of it is we can't be effective if we aren't approaching it from that certain servant leader perspective. And it's our job to be effective, right? So I think it's really important on an individual level. You can think about that in your chapter, situation. Uh, are you a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Are you in a leadership position or not? Are you chairing a committee? Are you leading the whole chapter? All of those things can help you adjust to what you think is going to be the best bet for you in that moment in time. And as you develop on your leadership journey, those things will change. And so just keeping in mind where you are, what you're trying to do, and how to be most effective. And that will help your band as well. And then serving the wider community. We've talked about these service projects in the community all throughout this chat. And there are so many reasons why it's effective and helps the community, but it also helps your band because when you're in elementary, middle school, high school settings, you're helping inspire students to get into college band and become members of Kappa Kappa Psi, right? Like it's a pipeline-y type thing. You're trying to support that development all the way up to the collegiate level. And by extension, that's supporting your college band. There are people who will want to be in college band, and that's what we care about, right? And then from the community perspective, we're in the arts. It's just a thing that the arts can't be effective, can't exist without community support. And so if you're out in the community showing how you can help support your community in unique ways, in different ways, that community will be there for you, for your band, for your school when you need them to be. So that was a little rambly, but that's how I think you can sort of think about servant leadership for yourself and how you're doing in your chapter, and then also bringing in that community aspect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that. And I don't care how rambly it feels. I love hearing it. Ari.
So Arupa is so good and professional and technical and smart, and I am the philosophical, feely, mushy guy. That is we are on opposite sides of the spectrum, but from my perspective, whenever I think about servant leadership in a more mushy way, because I'm a little bit of a sappy sap, I think about all of the great experiences that I've had, and all of the times that leaders have stuck up for me, when they've pulled me aside to check in on me, when they've brought me Oreos and tea when I felt like garbage, when they asked how my new medication was coming along. I think about all of the ways I was supported and uplifted as a student in the band and as a leader in Kappa Kappa Psi and as just a regular brother in Kappa Kappa Psi. And I think to myself, how can I replicate those experiences? How can I give that back to people? And it means that in how Arupa was kind of talking about like switching roles depending on where you're at and what you do, like I am the person now who gets to give the tea and the Oreos to the person who's not doing well. And I am the person who, when I see somebody really talented and working really hard, I get to be the one that's like, hey, let's give this person a try. Let's give them a shot. They are fantastic. I get to be that advocate. I worked with somebody a few years back, and she made this point with me once where she was like, when I succeed, everybody in my community that has uplifted me is coming with me. I think that when you break into something like an appointed position on with national leadership, like I am here because of the people who brought me here, and I want to bring more people in with me. It's this decentering of oneself to uplift others. And there's something really, really special about that. It's like in a way, it feels like the most service-y service I've ever done. Like to give people these opportunities that I have been given. And I don't know, it's really special. And if I talk about it too hard, I'll probably cry. So.
And that's allowed, it's just on stream. It reminds me, I love quotes, right? I'm a big quote guy, apparently, is what I'm learning. But the quote is, the cost of living in a good community is community service. And that's what I'm reminded of as you're speaking. Like, people did this for me, they served me this way, and now I get to serve based on how they serve me. Thank you. Mason, what you got?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I keep talking a lot about my early fraternal experience, but it's funny how those things come all the way back around to now, because in our recruitment process, we have interviews that we do, and this is like almost word for word one of the questions that we ask the people that we are, seeing if they're going to join our organization. The thing that I love about the way that you phrase the question is that it intrinsically ties service and leadership together. You don't have one without the other. Service is a form of leadership, and leadership is fulfilling itself a service. And so when I think about what that means to me and how I've seen it make a difference in my community, I always think, I don't even know if this ever actually happened in my life. Maybe it's just like one of those like stories that people tell to like inspire each other. But I always think about like the band member, like in my at my university, we do this thing called commando band. And so part of the band will go out during the third quarter and run around the university and play for people all around the the stadium, and play all around the stadium. And so, you get to do a little bit of the fan to band interaction. And so I always think of this image of like a percussionist that's in the chapter gives a kid his stick to play along with while the band is playing. And then that kid grows up and joins high school band and maybe goes to college, and then maybe one day becomes a band director. And it's not just because of that experience, but that is certainly part of it, right? So I think, like everybody else has kind of mentioned, it's about kind of creating that impact in your community, and seeing that very real. And you may not see the outcome of what you do day to day for 10, 20, 30 years. But it's just thinking about, we are always representatives of the fraternity. We're always representatives of the groups of which we are a part. And so the service and the leadership that we provide that are tied together are going to represent you, whether you like it or not, in pretty much every walk of life, whether it has to do with the fraternity or not. Everything that you do kind of comes back to this, hopefully, this spirit that we all have, and I think we do, that we're always trying to provide that leadership and that service in everything that we do, whether it be as an individual or even as a collection of individuals, as a chapter, as a band, or within our wider community. That stuff adds up, and you may not see, again, the outcome of that for a very long time, but one day you will kind of see how that all comes together.
Yeah, 100%. It's what's that Hamilton line? Planting the seeds of a tree that I'll never see.
In a garden that you never get to see. Yeah.
That's the one. Thank you. So inspiring, all of you. And so in the spirit of inspiring, I have one final question for us. Orion did have to jump off. We're not just skipping Orion, but Orion had to go to work, which is fine. So my last question, it is, what is one piece of advice you would leave chapters with about service? Very broad. Delaney.
Mine kind of ties in a lot of what we've talked about today. But like, don't let service turn into just another item on the to-do list. If it starts to feel like a chore, it loses a lot of the joy and meaning behind it. So, I mean, just taking the opportunity to grow with your brothers. Not every project is going to be sunshine and rainbows and be the most glamorous thing ever. But you can, like, take the opportunity, put on some music, have fun together, go out to lunch or dinner before or afterward, hang out with your brothers, and also remember why you're there serving in the first place. If you're just kind of showing up and being there to do it and get it done, like, it isn't fun. It's really hard to do. So keeping all this in mind, like, keeping that mindset, it really helps service transform into like an obligation. It transformed from an obligation into something that you like genuinely are looking forward to do.
Yeah, snaps for that. I love it. Mason.
Yeah, also to tie a little bit into what we talked about earlier, I think you just got to read and react. You have to constantly be listening and engaging in conversation of, hey, what needs to be done? Hey, what can we do? What can we not do? Sometimes the conversation is, hey, we just can't do anything right now because we have other things we need to focus on. But in a month, we have this really cool event going on, right? So read, react. I'm outside of band and video games. I'm a big sports guy as well. And there's a lot of like talking about reading and reacting. So I think if you can read and react and see what's going on around you and react accordingly, that'll set you up for a lot of success in the service that you provide.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Ari.
I think I really just want to reiterate the point that I made earlier. There's no, as a lifelong procrastinator, thank you, advanced college classes in middle school, it's so hard to start things because you think so much about like, oh, but what if it sucks? Oh, but what if it's not good enough? What if it's not? Just start. Just do something. Just do something. Put something down, write something down, sweep a room. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be major. You just need to start. It's like being an artist. It's like being a performer, like it's not going to be perfect the first run. But if you don't try, then you never learn and you never grow. And you just sit there and think, oh God, what if? But like trying and failing is how you learn, and it's more fun than sitting around and doubting yourself. You know what I mean? And I am quite certain that whatever idea you have is not terrible. I'm quite certain that it's honestly pretty solid. Just give it a try.
Yeah. If you're going to be good, you got to be brave enough to be bad for a little bit. Absolutely. And Arupa.
I will also borrow from something I said earlier, talking about having ownership of your service environment, right? So keeping an eye out, as everyone has said, keeping your ear to the ground, And then just making sure that you're staying aware of what's happening. You go to get water from a cooler and the cooler's leaking. Either you say, hey, let me help fix that, or you go, damn, that's crazy, and you walk away. You know what I mean? Like, you figure it out. And if you can stay aware of those things that are happening and plug yourself in and be like, that's something that I can help with, that's something the chapter can help with, let me bring it up, let's do it. That's going to get you the furthest. And that's especially applicable for small chapters, for chapters without marching bands. You know, things aren't as automatic in those environments, but you can still take that ownership, feel like whatever you're doing is going to be effective and help your director of bands, your sponsors, your staff, and they will support you in turn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, guests, for speaking. Thank you, viewers, for being here at the very end. It wouldn't be the end without some announcements, so make sure that you are posting on Instagram, that you're using the hashtags, hashtag the AEA way, hashtag KKPSI, hashtag National Month of Service, and hashtag KKPSI serves bands, and tag us at kappa.kappa.sci. And while you're at it, just go ahead and submit the service you're doing this year to go ahead and get going on your chapter's Crown Pearl goals. And and for the next round of the National Service Spotlight, I can read. The deadline for that is September 30th. And don't forget that your CPRs must be submitted with all forms acknowledged, dues paid, and DOB and sponsor signature by September 30th for semester schools and November 15th for quarter schools. Get it done. You don't want to owe money. You don't want to go on probation. Do it. So thank you all so much for joining us for our first VPSA chat, our first live VPSA chat, the months of service. We'll see you next time. AEA.